Hi everyone, it's Monday night and welcome to Use It or Lose It. The show going to be coming out every night at 9 o'clock as we go through Super Rugby. We're going to be talking about some of the big topics in rugby, and tonight it's all about the South African Conference. Want to focus on the sides, see what the boys thought after Superhero Sunday, what sort of chances the sides have got, and we'll take it from there. Also talk about some of the decisions made by some of the teams, like the Bulls bringing back Morné Steyn. There's been lots of talk on Twitter, I know, by the likes of Tyler, who unfortunately couldn't get on the show tonight. We'll have him in probably next week to comment on that. Morné Steyn coming back. Will he be there to guide Manie Libbok, or will he be there to keep him potentially out of the starting 15? We'll get more from our guests now. I'm going to introduce each one individually, and then I am going to hand over to Couch Critic to host the show. Let's start off with Jacques, the yellowcap.com. Jacques, good to have you on the show. I believe you were at the ground yesterday for the rugby.
I was indeed, and thanks for having me for the first show of the year. It's really, really awesome. And yes, I'm very, very excited for this upcoming season.
Excellent. It's going to be a good one. Joining us from Cape Town, I've had a few requests over the last couple of days to find out when he's getting back on Twitter. It's Judge Rugby. Judge, good to have you on the show. Any sign of you on Twitter?
That has been one of the most insane processes ever. I'm still dealing with the robots on Twitter's end to try and sort it out. So it doesn't look like I'm going to be back anytime soon. I'm hoping it'll all expire and then I can start the process again. But it hasn't been easy. But thanks so much, and I'm glad we're back and getting prepped and ready for Super Rugby.
Yeah, certainly looking forward. Just to mention on that Twitter thing, I know there's a guy in Scotland. I think he's Graham Love. He does a lot of YouTube stuff. He's a Scottish rugby fan. He built up a hell of a following on Twitter, and similar thing I think happened to you. There was some sort of copyright thing, or so someone just, and they did away with his account, and he had to start over. Fortunately, a lot of guys shared it, and he managed to pull it up. But it's terrible. You work on growing something, and then it could just be pulled down so quickly. It's quite sad.
Yeah, it's such I was enjoying it, having fun, and we'll see how. I've enjoyed the break, so perhaps Super Rugby will allow me to come back in, and obviously Six Nations and the European stuff's in full swing now, so it might be a good time to get back on. But I'm stubborn in the way that I don't want to start a new one. I want it to be the same. So we'll see how that goes. Excellent.
Well, keep on fighting there. Let's go across now to Couch Critic. Couch, it's your first show in a couple of months as well. Good to have you on. I know you've been jet-setting around the country, but back at work now?
Cheers, Brent. Back at work and obviously finding some time to still, unfortunately, finding time to still watch some cricket. So that hasn't been the best. So definitely looking forward to rugby so we can just forget about all the Proteas problems.
Excellent. Yeah, I think everyone wants to focus on the rugby at the moment rather than the cricket, that's for sure. So, guys, interesting topics tonight. I'm going to be sitting in the back end of the studio. Couch, I'm going to hand over to you now. Take over the South African Conference chat and pretty much whatever else on your mind. I don't know if you guys want to touch on the whole salary cap thing at Saracens and the sort of impact. I see there's lots of talk about players potentially coming home, but I'll hand over to Couch and I'll be in the back end on the comments as well and catch you at the end of the show.
Cheers, Brent. Thanks. Listen, guys, we actually talked about it just coming in, so maybe let's just pop to each of you. Do you think it's a little bit less of a hype coming into this year's Super Rugby? I mean, we're 2 weeks away now, and even transfer news, it might be a bit tough to get all of those and a lot of news and things like that. So, Jock, maybe from your side, you've obviously bought into the hype, having been to Super Sunday there. Do you think it's the same as usual, a little bit less, or how are you finding this build up?
After yesterday, I must say I'm quite excited for the season. I remember last year this time I wasn't as excited as I am this time round. Maybe there's a few factors playing into that. One of them that I've decided to give Super Brew a break and try and experience sport for what it should be, and not support another team, for the sake of my Super Brew and not like that. So nothing against the guys from Super Brew, great bunch of guys, but I just owe it to myself to really enjoy sport for what it is. But regarding Super Rugby, I don't know why, but I'm really, really, really excited. Like I said, I think going through tonight's chat and stuff, maybe I'll discover the real reason why I'm excited, or maybe you guys can convince me not to be.
As long as it's not your jersey being the reason that you're excited, because then I think you might be in for a bit of pain. Listen there, Sean, for you, excitement haven't really got going quite yet, or are you slowly getting there?
Yeah, so I wasn't able to watch any of the games yesterday. I've been quite tied up with the Champions Cup this weekend and last weekend, and obviously with Six Nations coming up. Been a bit focused on that. So Super Rugby's taken a bit of a backward seat. And then, so I think not watching last week, not watching yesterday, I think is a big thing. I think that's also a great way to start things. I saw a couple of the tries. It is a preseason game, so you can't really bite too much into it. It's quite tough. I think there's a hell of a lot of changes all around. After every World Cup, the same thing happens in Australia and New Zealand. So it's a little bit interesting in terms of what we're looking at. Like, we're looking at a lot of hopeful stuff. Like, there's a lot of guys that are here that we're looking to see them continue their form. There's a lot of guys that need to come up and get going. A few new coaches. There's quite a lot happening, and there's obviously the pressure of us being world champions is expected for it to roll through to Super Rugby, and that comes obviously with the history of the Kiwis winning it and being in world champs for the previous 8 years, and they've been dominating Super Rugby pretty much since then as well. So it's going to be quite interesting. I think it's kind of uncharted territory. I think there's a lot of coaches that will feel like they need to do a little bit more and change it up a little bit. I don't know. It's going to be quite interesting. I think the landscape's changed, so I'm looking forward to seeing what happens.
I've actually got it as a little bit of a topic later, the effect of the World Cup, and especially probably at the Stormers, since they've got quite a lot of Springboks there. But we'll touch on that later. I think we'll handle each team and have a little bit of a discussion there around them. But just before we kick off with the teams, Judge, maybe you're not quite as onto it without the social at this stage, but quite a big aspect. You always get the positives and the negatives. Some people looking at quite a lot of these older war horses coming back to the country, and especially obviously Morne Steyn has picked up quite a bit of comment. Andre Creer, the Sharks with JP already at the end of last season. JP Peterson, Yanni du Plessis, those kind of guys. We obviously saw that Rassie had quite a lot of success at bringing some of the old guys back, but that was a different scenario, and it was a once-off trying to win a competition. So starting with you, Judge, do you think it's worthwhile having these guys there, or is it a case of, listen, let's start with the youngsters and we're actually stopping the progress of someone who should be developing by having these guys who just come and cash their pension check?
I think it's massively important, especially if the guys like Jean-Jacques Kruger and Morne Steyn are going back to the Bulls. So they're going back to a place where they know and everything. JP Peterson coming back to the Sharks. Josh Strauss is going to the Bulls, but I mean the Lions isn't like too far up. It's more a case of getting the guys back in their old environments and stuff. And me, I'm very happy. Balance is key. So if you look at the amount of guys that Super Rugby sides have lost versus the amount of guys that need to step up, I think it is important. There will be times where a guy might not make the bench or might be on the bench because Morne Steyn's going to start. Maybe he's actually in better form. That's also the way you've got to look at it. And then the other side is there's so much stuff that happens behind the scenes with these players. And we saw it was very evident in the 2007 World Cup with Bobby. It was very evident with Scott Brits and a few of the older guys in 2017. 2019, my bad. So I see value in it. I think they'll also get them on a good deal. I think Morne, before he stayed with Stade Francais, he had actually signed a contract with Brive, if I'm not mistaken. It might have been someone else. He pulled out of that on one of his exit clauses, stayed with Stade when whoever went to coach there, and and then he bombed out and left, and a lot of South Africans left. Josh Strauss was there at Stade Francais as well. So like those guys probably needed to get out of the mix. That probably would have been a good deal. You've got to look at it from a financial point of view. If you're getting all that experience and it's costing you half the amount of what it would normally cost you, it's good business. So I don't have an issue.
I think I'll go to Cappy on this one now. I just want to say, what you also got to take into account, a team like the Lions getting Yanni du Plessis, you also got to take a look around at what they have got and what they've lost, and the same with the Bulls. They've had a heck of an exodus. So for me, someone like John Recreer is a superb signing, given the fact that they've absolutely been, ravaged there in terms of their stocks, especially at lock. So you also got to look at that. Yellow Cap, your thoughts on this one?
I think starting with the Bulls, I mean, Jandre and Mornay, for me, it's a bit of a non-negotiable, especially like you just said, with the exodus we've had. We lack a lot of experience, and I mean, having those guys in, and especially in key positions, I think the Bulls did quite well there. And I know there's rumors flying around with Vincent Koch. The Bulls are in talks, and I see they spoke. Rugby 365 spoke to his agent, and apparently it's the only SA franchise that's in talks with Vincent. But there's 3 European sides who's also in talks with him. So obviously money's going to talk. But I can't really say off the record, but I did meet Vincent when the Bulls and the Lions played their last Super Rugby match last year. And we were in the same box, and the rumor was already quite strong then that the Bulls were interested in him, and I just got a wink that night, because obviously there wasn't much going to be said. So I'm really hoping for that to come through, because I think the Bulls do lack a lot when it comes to the prop stocks. Although yesterday I was pleasantly surprised at quite a bit. I didn't expect to see what I saw yesterday, especially in the Bulls Lions match. I think it was really, really nice. I mean, seeing Yanni back, he also surprised me quite a bit. I think we tend to forget, even though these guys are old in rugby terms. I mean, what I saw yesterday, they looked hungry, and I don't know if it's because they're back home, and I don't know. I mean, I heard Mornay in an interview the other day speaking about 2, 3, 4 years. I don't see 4 years. I don't possibly see 3. But, if you can give the Bulls 2 great years, that would be awesome. And I know there's a lot of talk about Mani Lebok, maybe, what is the situation now with Mornay there? Is it going to be a good thing? Is it going to be a bad thing? I personally think it will be a good thing, because, I mean, anybody that really knows Mornay will know what a classy player is. He proved himself over and over again, and Mani can be privileged to have someone like him there. But I must also say that when Mani came on yesterday, you could see that he was. I think the competition in the Bulls team is big. It's not a matter of who's first and who's second. I think we'll find out in the first few weeks of the competition, maybe, if there is something like that. But I must say, Mani really stuck up his hand yesterday, which is really, really awesome, because last year I felt Mani was a bit too much up and down, no consistency. And if Mani can step up to the plate, then it's his place. So I know the Stormers have pretty much the same team as last year. So whether it's going to count for them this year, only time will tell. And then the Sharks, the checkbook spoke quite hard there. That's good also.
Okay. Listen, Cap. We'll get into each team there. Yeah, they don't really have the seniors except for JP. So let's maybe start on the Stormers there. The big loss, obviously, Eben Etzebeth, Damien Dalende. Those are the 2 key ones. They've lost a few others, but I don't actually think it's such big names. Noche and those kind of guys are pretty well covered by the depth that the Stormers do have in the Union. But those two pretty much being the biggest there. My question, I'll start with you, Cappy, is exactly that one that we quickly mentioned earlier. Do you think it's a benefit that we've got the Kulisis and the Peter Stefted boys and Stephen Kitsoffs in that lineup who were part of the Springbok set up and enjoyed the great success and are on this high, or do you think it's still a little bit of a hangover for those guys and it could take them a few weeks to really get back into rugby specifically? They've obviously been off and really had a good time in Khaleesi doing all sorts of international things. So is it a benefit to the Stormers and to John Dobson and his squad to have those guys, or is it a bit of a distraction, you think?
I don't think it's a distraction. Everybody's been talking about using the World Cup, as motivation. So I don't know if that's also why I'm feeling a bit motivated this year in regards to, the South Africans having a better Super Rugby than last year. I really think, with the Springboks, they have the most Springboks from the World Cup in all the South African franchises. So, if they don't use it to their advantage, then it would be really stupid. And I actually asked someone a question the other day, and if we get some time, I'd like to ask you guys the same thing. I'll ask you now, then you can maybe think about it. But I had a question to someone the other day, asking them, out of the 4 coaches, who do they think will feel the most pressure in this campaign, and possibly why? I've had various answers, and I think all of them are quite valid.
Okay, Judge, onto the Stormers there, the influence of the Bok thing hampering them or a huge benefit?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with keeping your core of your side together, especially if they've gone and won a World Cup. Like that changes things quite seriously. I think the concern for me, just looking at this the spreadsheet that I was given, I think the concern for me is the Stormers 8. I think we're probably going to see a Khaleesi there probably a little bit. I don't know how Joanna Augustus is feeling in terms of form and how he's doing, but I think like their tight 5 seems pretty decent. You just need sort of JD Schickling to step up now. He's been in and out and stuff like that. I think Salman Barat should step into it a little bit. Peter Stefted there as well. So I think they're okay. I'm concerned at 8. I think they'll move some stuff around. I think at fly half they're pretty set. I think I'd like to see Damian Willemse more at 10 this season. I think he was like I mentioned, I think his job at 15 the last year and a bit was more so he could go to the World Cup. I think that was the conversation and stuff. I think he wants to play 10. When he plays 15 for the Stormers last year, when I'll never forget when they were in Buenos Aires, and at 15 it looked like he was trying to fake an injury to get off, and then they moved him to 10 and then he dazzled it. So it's such a weird space. And so I think midfield they'll be okay. I think I'm very interested to see what happens at 12. I think the Stormers have got so used to and so sort of cemented around what Damien brings out. I think Jamie Roberts is absolutely the perfect fit in terms of a player. He brings the experience. The guys will look up to him a little bit differently because he's a Lion and he's Welsh, and like any foreigner that comes in gets a little bit more respect automatically, especially with he's flipping classy, but his style of play is essentially how Damien plays. I don't think he'll make as many yards over the gain line, which is quite interesting. But how much of a role is he going to play? Is he going to be your starting 12, or are they going to have to move a couple of guys around and see what happens? I mean, might move another 10 there. I think 13, Ruan Null, I'd really like to see him play a little bit more. I'm quite a fan. I think he's quite handy, so we'll see how that works. And then out on the wing, Sergio Peterson last year was off and on, a couple of injuries, and then we'll have to see. Edwin van der Merwe has been confirmed, and then Sinatla, I don't think he's playing Super Rugby. I'm not sure, but yeah, it'll be interesting. And then Dylan Lates at fullback. Is Sinatla in? Yeah. So then, I mean, so when we sorted, and I think Dylan Lates and SP Murray, I don't know if SP Murray's gone. So Dylan Lates at fullback. So they're looking a little bit thin. A couple of other guys will come up in the mix. There's a lot of changes that have happened, even though they've kept their core pack. and there are a lot of Springboks in their pack. There's been changes with poaching and all that sort of stuff as well. So it'll be quite interesting.
Just on that one, I'll go to Cappy just now. But finally, obviously the Stormers have almost perennially looked great on paper, and just not delivered. They were last out of this 10th overall, last of the South Africans. What do you expect from them? What's your prediction there? You think it's an improvement? You think they're runners? How do you see it, Judge?
If I had to really put my head on the block, I think they might continue to struggle. I think there's a lot of shit going on in the background still. Sachs has resigned, and to be fair, I think we almost all saw that coming. If you looked at his history and a couple of decisions that were made and stuff like it was going to be a tough one. You know, was it an appointment just for an appointment, and the same old guys were running the show in the background? I don't know. Plus moving to away from Newlands, like there's a lot of stuff changing there. They haven't spent a lot of money, and it's very likely because they can't. You know, like how is that affecting everything? Like it feels kind of stagnant. I think maybe that's the best way of putting it. So, you know, will Dobbo come in and change it up? He will breathe a new life into the players. I'm not sure. He's been around and involved with them a lot. Like he's not new. It's not like Rassie has just come in and said we want to do stuff. Like they're very much the same old, but without Robbie Fleck. So there will be changes. I think tactically Dobbo's really good. I just think it might be a little bit more stagnant still, and I think that's more from the top coming down.
Chalk, your thoughts on the Stormers, the squad, maybe where they lied, where they're looking good, and what you expect from them?
I expect pretty much the same as what Judge said. Like I said earlier, it's pretty much the same squad with one or two new youngsters that's come up. Quite what I saw yesterday. There's a few exciting players that I saw that I got to get used to the names and stuff still. So please don't ask me too many names yet. But I must say if I'm basing what I saw yesterday, and I know guys say you mustn't read too much into this, I tend to disagree with that a little bit, and that's how I am. You guys know me very well. But from what I saw yesterday, you know, the old guard that's still there, a lot of them, you know, looked hungry. I think, you know, they might do something. I'm also not convinced whether they're going to be contenders. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, when the tournament starts, everyone is a contender. But, you know, it's a long tournament, and only time will tell, you know, whether they can deliver the goods. And for me, it's a case of, you know, like Sean just said now, what's Dobbo going to bring to the table that's different? I think, you know, the Stormers faithful have been calling for him for at least 2 years already now, and he's finally getting his shot. And based on my question I asked you guys earlier, that is the guy that I think has got the most pressure from a fan base perspective, not necessarily a boardroom perspective. At the Stormers, I think anybody and everything has got pressure on them just because of the situation that's going on there. But I do think maybe, you know, things like, you know, it's the end of Newlands, things like that. You know, those kind of things. We know South Africans, we're emotional people. We come to the party when the chips are down, and, you know, these guys might want to prove a point. So there's a few things that can count in their favor, but is, you know, sticking to such a big core of the team from last year who didn't really do well, is, you know, unless the World Cup is going to, you know, motivate them, I don't know if there's going to be much change. But only time will tell.
Guys, I have to say, if it is a Newlands factor or something like that, it'd be great, because honestly, to me, the only thing that stands between the Stormers and really performing better is in their heads. You know, they're a great team on paper. You look at Kitshoff and Bonambi, Peter Steff the Toy, and even as Judge said, Murat and Schikkeling, who, by the way, have come a long way with John Dobson and that kind of age group squad setup. Guys like Jaco Coetzee, Jano Augustus and Kulisi, and I mean they've got talent to burn. Even Masain starting to come through there, and then they've got a heck of an exciting backline if you've got Jantjies and Willems, and to me that's probably going to be the key. You know, it's two youngsters that a lot of people are expecting a lot of things from, and they absolutely electrifying, but can they deliver week in and week out, and especially away from home and that kind of thing. And then also interesting in the centres, Jamie Roberts is a big signing, but apart from that, it would have been a quite young and quite inexperienced Super Rugby level centre pairing, and especially injury-wise, you know, if as soon as Leitz get injured, what are they going to do at the back? Does that mean Willems has to move back again? And John Luke, I'm not convinced that about him as a pivot. So there's just a few too many questions that I think could hamper them in the second half of the tournament, and especially away from home. And as Brent put up there, 25-1 for the Stormers to win the competition. I think they can keep that. I wouldn't take them at 50-1. But they're definitely runners for the South African Conference. I mean, you can't throw them away there. Then onto the Lions, guys. Lions finished 9th overall. Obviously, last season we were all saying, listen, what are they going to do after losing quite a few players? And then, lo and behold, it's happened to them again this season. They've absolutely, I think the last 2 or 3 seasons, it's been an absolute nightmare after Ackerman and Kriel and all those lads, and now Mostert and everyone has followed suit. So this really is, it's almost like they have to reinvent themselves every season. So it's again, it's another one of those. They've lost Lionel Mapu at the back, which, you know, like him or hate him, he was pretty central to what the Lions bring. Guys like Ruan Combrink, who are, you know, steady and a big part of their success. So obviously there are quite a few challenges. Judge, what do you think of the Lions in general, looking at their squads and expectation kind of thing?
Yeah, I think the Lions could be quite interesting. I think with Cash there, Cash has been involved with the Lions for some time. You know, he's always been involved with a very light coaching space, but from a strength and conditioning side. I think, you know, if I'm just going to go through the squad, I think from where they are at the props, I don't think they're too bad. I think they're just lacking a little bit of experience there. I think Yanni's going to play a massive role there. Plus, I'm also, if I'm not mistaken, he's also been quite. His role is to take over a lot of from coaching and stuff like that from the age group. So they'll see benefit there later. But I mean, you know, they've got Dylan Smith, Carly Sadi, Steve Sitole, Yanni Duplessis, a couple of other guys. I think they're okay there. I think where they are going to struggle is possibly at hooker. The couple of youngsters there, and it'll be quite interesting. I think, you know, they've released Robbie Coetzee, who's a stalwart there and always played second fiddle when Malcolm Marx came in the mix and fell by the wayside. But I really reckon they could use him this season, just to have him there. So we'll see how that goes. From a lock point of view, I think there's nothing. I think Marvin Ori, I'm glad that he stayed. I think he's very handy. You know, he's a real tall piece of timber. He does his job pretty well. So you know, he'll come back. They should be sort of okay there. I think also maybe a little bit thin. From a flanker point of view, I think they're fine. I think at 8 maybe they'll struggle. They'll move a couple of guys around. But Carl Brink needs to stay fit. Hachiva Diamani is incredible. Out. Brink.
Achilles tendon ruptured.
Oh, that's massive. Yeah. That's long term. That changes. Changes things.
Big blow.
When did this happen?
Yesterday.
Oh, wow. So, yeah, okay. So that changes things. So they're going to struggle a little bit. I think also at 8, I'd like to see what they've got. You know, they've lost Whiteley. He's retired. He's involved in the coaching setup, so he will kind of be there. At 9, Nick Groom, I think they probably will be hurt a little bit more by the loss of Nick Groom than many people expect, I think, with a little bit of depth. But they've got Ross Cognier and Dylan Smith and then Andre Warner, who's come down from the Bulls. So they're okay there, but I'm quite a fan of Groomy. And I think at 10, they're fine. I think, you know, Elton's they're starting 10 and probably captain them a few times, I see. Midfield, hopefully we'll see a little bit more of Similani. Dan Krill's moved up from the Stormers, so there's your 12 kind of set up, and we'll see what else they've got. And then wingers, Olengo's moved down from the Bulls. Tyron Green has been very, very handy, but he's just a runner. Like, he's incredible. So, and then at fullback, Andries Coetzee and Johnny Lombard. So I think they'll be okay. They're not really going to set. I think they're still, with respect, I still think they're maybe a little bit on the down. They're still trying to recover a little bit from what's happened when Akers left. They kind of kept plugging the holes, but now with so many other guys leaving in post-World Cup and stuff, I think this change also might mean they'll struggle a little bit more.
Cappy, they Forster, Mapu, and really relying on Elton pretty much as the only fly off in that group. That's really good to me. That just shouts like there's going to be some issues somewhere along the line. And the other thing, you've got Cash van Rooyen in there, new coach, but he looks intent or hell bent almost on playing the same style. I know it was only a superhero one, but you saw in the Currie Cup, I don't think he's going to change. They were taking quick lineouts. I think this Lions team is going to, I think his modus operandi was, listen, we just make it even faster. And, you've got to ask the question is, do these Lions have enough quality in their ranks to play that type of game against top international teams and come away unscathed and not get hurt?
Yeah, look, again, yesterday, I was pleasantly surprised. The Lions, for me, their backs are very exciting. I don't think their problem is going to be at the back. I think their biggest problem is going to be at the front. And now with the news today that came through about Carl Brunk rupturing his Achilles tendon, well, that is just such sad news and bad news for the Lions. Because, this guy, since he got a chance to be in the box setup, it's just gone downhill for him. So, and we all know how many guys have come back from an Achilles, torn Achilles. So, is this the end of Kyle Brunk? Hopefully not, because this is the last thing they really need. But, he's clearly, I don't think Super Rugby is going to happen for him this year. So, I think in the front is where I think the problem is for the Lions, because they lost a lot of guys over the last 2-3 years. And it's with like was it Sean that said Yanni coming in, it's going to play a big mentor role there. It was really nice seeing him yesterday playing, and seeing him play the way he did also was actually very nice to see, because I think a lot of people tend to think Yanni's probably Mir, as we would say in Afrikaans, and he was everything but that yesterday. So he looks hungry. I think the fact that he's, I don't know how big a factor it's going to be for him that he's for the first time in his life without his brother, So that is, that was quite a shock to see happen, because I've never ever seen them being apart anywhere. But I don't think there's a lot of youngsters, a lot of exciting youngsters. Tyron Green, Simulane, Dan Creel looked very, very good yesterday. I still believe, that he's such an exciting player, but it just hasn't happened for him yet. So, but from what I saw yesterday, if they play the way they played yesterday, I won't write them off. I think they might surprise quite a few teams. I must say I'm a bit out of touch in regards to the overseas franchises and stuff. So, I only at this stage know what I've seen so far from the South Africans, but I don't think the Lions will do as bad as I probably thought they would, but only time will tell once again.
Well, I think firstly, maybe Yanni, it could be a better thing that he's not with his brother, because maybe he'll make less nonsense when they operate alone. Maybe it's just when they're together that they're full of square sugaray. But I must say, I think I'm going to call it early, lads. I see the Lions coming dead last in the South African conference. I think they're not going to be able to. It's a young coach. He hasn't been exposed to Super Rugby. Heck of a lot of youngsters. They're going to excite here and there, but this is Super Rugby. You're going to be tested at level that you're not used to.
So I just want to, sorry to interrupt you there, Hein. actually spoke that's very deep in his knowledge with the Lions, and he actually knows Ivan. It is Ivan, eh? He knows him quite well, and strangely enough, I wasn't aware of this, but he's been involved with the Lions for approximately 10 years already. So he's not as young as I think most people in South Africa think. If there's someone that's very familiar with the setup there, it's him. So maybe we'll find out more about him as the season goes along.
So Cash has been involved in the Super Rugby sides even when Akkers was there and John Mitchell. He's been involved. He hasn't taken up a senior coaching role in Super Rugby, so this is his first one, and he'll also be doing it without without Swayze and Akkers and the guys. So it's going to be interesting, and I agree with you. I'm sorry to also jump in here, but I think we think the backs are exciting and we're going to do well, but the forwards not. Then the backs aren't either. They could be as good as anything, and that's a problem that I'm a little bit worried about. And I think Lionel Mapu is such a massive loss. I know you've mentioned him. I think he is incredible. He's a really, really good 13, and you need a bit of stability there. And Wanisile Milani is really good. I hope he kind of grabs that. I'd like to see him play at 13. I'd like to see him kind of grab that role a little bit. I'm hoping he can kind of step into that, because he'd have to play beyond his years in order to be able to cover all those bases quite quickly. So there might still be a bit of learning from him. He is classy and he will get there. I just think if he is your first choice 13, I think there will be a few teething problems. The guys must just bear with it.
And I mean, they've got Duncan Matthews in who used to be a winger, and he could be possibly even starting at 12. Now, to me, that's a little bit of an issue for a guy to come in there in Super Rugby. It's one thing to do it in Currie Cup, but again, a different thing against Lamaupe and those kind of guys. So, as I said, it's good luck to them, and it's nice to see a heck of a lot of youngsters. But hopefully, they're going to set the platform, because I mean that was a big thing, as you guys well say, with the Lions is. Everyone knew this fast game and expansive game, but Akkers started it by being a heck of a good in the tight facets first. So that was where they set it, and then those other O's could play off it and go crazy. So they've got to remember to do that. And I mean, guys like Dylan Smith are good, and they could do it, and Yanni's there. So, but I mean, you said it as well. Hooker is the issue, or he's still there at lock, but I don't know. To me, there are just a few questions, and I'll worry about them. But let's go on to the team that I'm not worried about, and that's the Sharks. Finished second last season, but let's be honest, they were never in it. They weren't going to challenge for the win. They pretty much just kept it there at par and surprised us just as we were ready to give up on them. Sean, give me some hope there. What are you expecting from the lads this season? It's actually, I thought they've got pretty similar squad, but if you look at some of the losses, especially there in the pack, it's quite significant. Losing Beast obviously, and Akker van der Merwe. I mean, what a influence that guy was, especially coming on off the bench and that kind of impact. And then even lesser knowledge players, maybe like a Ruan Botha was just fantastic as a veteran, really, just to keep the team together there in the engine room.
Yeah, I think, if you look at their props, they've lost the Beast and Kuni, and both of them add a lot of value in Super Rugby. But, up front, Oxen Chair coming in, Johan Skuman's there, Tommy Toy, they're okay, but, they're one injury away from losing, a very senior player. I think at hooker is quite interesting. Craig Burden is playing. I quite like him. When he was at stud, he was doing really well. And then he came back, and he'd been back for a little while, and he's kind of up and about and everything. So he'll be okay. And then I see, Jared's just mentioned Karen van Vuuren. He's pretty handy, but again, it's one injury away from losing a senior guy, and that's where I'm worried about, that balance side of things. But guys are going to step up eventually. I think from a lock point of view, so they've got Leroux Roots, who was at the Tars last year. He's pretty handy, but young. I think Ruan Botha's a fairly large loss. Hiron Andrews still there. Tyler Paul. I think they'll be okay. And I know Jared will agree with me on this. I think one of their biggest losses and the guys that's going to hurt them the most is going to be Jacques Vermeulen. I think he's really, like, he's a power player. He does the hard graft. He does it well. Obviously the Dupree twins and Lucy's are quite important. So I think that's there. I think from a Lucy's point of view, I think they're a little bit sort of thin. Injured.
Jock, have you lost Sean there as well, or is it just me?
Yeah, I think he's gone there.
And
just
I must say, Jock, I must say it's quite strange for Sean there to say that the Sharks are light after buying 3 loose forwards. They still light, so that's a bit of a concern. After buying Henku Venter, James Venter, and Noche, still being short, it means they must have lost a heck of a lot of guys.
Look, I think Sean's onto something there. I actually agree with him. It's all going to depend on how they play them at the end of the day, because they don't have the biggest.
They're gonna play Pepsi. They're gonna play Pepsi Buthelezi at 8, and then they're gonna play James Venter at 6, and I'm not sure who's gonna be playing at 7 yet.
I think I'm quite looking forward to Pepsi having a full season. And obviously you've got Terem Tembu and Noche to come through. I'd like to see a little bit more from Noche. I think he got quite a raw deal at the Stormers. Like, after being captain, he was in the mix for a while, and then he just kind of, and I don't understand why. So hopefully, I still think he's got a lot to offer. So we'll see what happens. At 8, I'm a little concerned. I mean, Dan Dupree and Philip van der Walt both gone. They'll move a couple of other guys around, or because Pepsi's put in as a flank on the list here. I think at 9, I think Screwed is going to be their first choice 9, and then waiting on Cam Wright. But Sanele Nohamba,
Nohamba all the way. Watch him,
mate. He's incredible. How he was playing second string in the under-20s, I won't know. I think he's great. I think at 10, I think Kerwin Bosch has probably sewn that up on last season. He really performed at 10. I think that's his position, and you can sort it out. And the bonuses, they don't necessarily need him at 15 just yet. And also, the old coach didn't want him to play at 10 too much. So that's done now. But Jordan Chait, Buta Chamberlain, going to be handy. In the midfield, I think the Sharks are pretty decent. I think, that with Ward and Lukanya at 13, I think they're okay. Andre Esterhuizen, Moritz Lowe might be okay. And then wing, they're also looking a bit thin at the wing, eh? I think, then they go and bring in Madosh Tambwe. Like, for anyone to sign at the Sharks and as a winger, you must be on a massive contract, or something someone else doesn't know, because there's no way you're getting a look in there. And then the biggest thing for me, I'm looking for to watch Apelele Fassi this year. He was incredible last year. If it wasn't a World Cup year, I would really have been disappointed if he didn't get a call up. And it was his first year. I think this year we are going to see something. I can't wait. I think Bosch and Fassi together also work really well. But Apelele Fassi is incredible. That kid is, when he broke onto the scene and when I watched him last year, I was absolutely blown away.
Jock, I'm going to ask Brent to pin this at exactly 43 minutes into the show. Everyone can just forward to that. That's where we're going to give you 3 minutes to absolutely wax lyrically about how good the Sharks are and how well you think they're going to do this season.
Did you say good?
Fantastic.
Okay, I was just checking. Wasn't sure if my speaker was working that well. Listen, I must say that back 3 of the Sharks. Yesterday, Sean, I don't know what you were doing yesterday. I saw something on Instagram. I won't say it on here what you were doing. But anyway, you missed quite a good bit of rugby from the Sharks yesterday. especially from the names that you ended off with. I mean, Fassi was unbelievable. Look, I mean, if there's one team in the world that I despise, and I'm saying this on public space, it is this team that we're talking about now. But I must say, yesterday, sure, it's exciting times at the Sharks. I know I was very vocal about Mapimpi before the World Cup last year, but I mean, I'm sold. So, shows you people can change. And
But
again,
just quickly on the Mapimpi thing, you feel free to apologize. You feel free. Okay.
I will apologize publicly. You guys want to put me on full screen, I will do it.
And just because, but you can also say that you can agree with me that I was right, because that is the one out of all of the things that I got right and wrong. This is the thing that I'm the most happy with.
Did you already forget the last show we had last year? How many times I said you were right?
Oh, but it's a new year now. Just let's start off properly.
So here's my moment to say I want to apologize publicly to Makazole Mapimpi for dissing you last year and not thinking you were good enough. I think you're an unbelievable player. And secondly, I want to say that Sean, Judge Rugby, is an unbelievable pundit. He should be sitting on the Super Sport panel every weekend, as far as I'm concerned. I hope that's good enough.
Oh, Sharky beats.
Anyway,
Okay,
that's
guys.
what I was going to say. I mean, Nkosi, Mapimpi, Fassi, they were unbelievable yesterday. And yeah, I think from those three, the Sharks really can look forward to a great season in that regard. It's just going to be up to the rest of the guys to get them into play. Cohen didn't show a lot yesterday. Obviously, we all know he's got the big boot and everything. The thing that I'm excited for his sake, and that one of you guys touched on it actually, that with him and Fassi now, I think they'll combine very well. They switched quite a lot yesterday as well. So the interaction between them is great. I think finally we're going to see what I think the Sharks fans were calling for last year so desperately. And unfortunately, their coach had something else in mind the whole time, which I think ultimately cost them big time. Because it was obvious as daylight, what cost them at the end of the day. But I think this year, if things can go on the way they did, with Lucanio Am in the midfield, I would assume that Andre Esterhuizen is going to remain his partner. So I think the Sharks backline is settled. There's no, I think, like you said, Sean, anybody that's trying to get a contract there now is either knows something or is getting a hell of a good offer. Forward-wise, I mean, they've got a few big boys, but I think in the Lucy's itself, it's not that big. They've lost quite a lot with the Depree brothers stuff, and it's going to be interesting to see. And Jacques Vermeulen, I mean, geez, how we lost that guy, it's not good at all. And I'm saying we as South Africa because I thought that he was an unbelievable player. I think he was underrated at his own union anyway as well. So the guys who are in there now in that back, the loose chair for the Sharks, whoever they're going to be, they've got some big shoes to fill and they're going to work their asses off. Sorry for my language. But forward-wise, I don't know. Again, it's almost when I saw the teams this weekend, and I know it wasn't the final squads, I kind of got the impression that most of the coaches were undecided specifically about their forwards. Because you could see most of the teams didn't select their starting, what you'd imagine be their first choice players. The Sharks, I think, was the only team that looked like this could possibly be their number one, their starting lineup out of the 4 teams that were selected. But the other 3 teams, for me, it was evident the backs, that was their best backs, but their forwards wasn't their number one choices. So it's going to be interesting to see if the Sharks can get their forwards game going this year, because they definitely have the backs. And I mean, there was a few glimpses yesterday. I mean, there were 2. I think it was 2 tries that were disallowed. But I mean, if those tries were scored, the Sharks are definitely the team to watch in that regard.
I must say, to me, two big guys. I was surprised that Jock. I think it was it Roots, the number 4 lock there. I don't even know where the heck he came from, but he looked seriously impressive there. And for a youngster, it was a great outing. And to me, a big player this season is JJ van der Mesh. I think it's his time to start moving into that setup now after coming through the age group. So that's going to be a big one. And then hopefully the Sharks really settle on James Venter at number 6. I think they need that fetcher type properly, and then obviously, if Alta Dupreez, that's going to be a huge loss. That 8 and 7, I mean, that was pretty close to Bach quality. So I mean, we haven't got like for like there. Noche is loose and a runner, and so that's going to be a bit of an issue for them. And again, Kieran van Vuuren is the only really hooker you'd want to start and play a heck of a lot of games, and he's really his second season, so. At hooker, we're definitely short. So those are the concerns in terms of the Sharks. But I think they could be real runners again if that 9-10 combination, if Bosch really can settle into it. And definitely Shawnee is going to get number 10 is going to be his spot this season, or at least for the majority of it, to showcase his skills the same as Damian Willemsen. I think it might very well be a shootout to be Elton's backup. Then. The one that I'd really like to fast forward through as quickly as possible, the Bulls. Sean, your take on them? Obviously, another team that have lost a few guys. I know a few posters came off the wall there for Cappy since Jesse Creel isn't there anymore. You know, he had quite a few of those shirtless posters up there in the bedroom. Judge, your call on how the Bulls might go.
Yeah, so it's going to be quite interesting. I think they've lost a lot, but I think, they've got Lizo Koboka and Trevor Nyakane up front still, Vian Herbst, a couple of guys. They should be okay from a prop point of view. They've got quite a big group of guys that have still hung around for a while, so it's not too bad. I think Yaku Fasahi and hopefully, I think Yaku's probably going to take hooker first choice, number 2. Edgar Murturli and Johan Krobler are still sort of in the mix. I think from a lock point of view, I think they're going to struggle. I think they've lost a lot. So I think having Jean Kruger there, going back to our start of our conversation, I think it's a massively important shout to have him there. I'm interested to see what they're going to be able to bring to the party. Historically, that's bread and butter. They're top 5, So we'll have to see what's happening there. And then their looseys, they've lost a couple of guys. Josh Strauss has come in. Where's Marco van Staden gone? Is he still in the mix?
He's got a concussion injury at the moment.
But he's still at the Bulls, though.
Yep, he's there.
Okay. So I think they'll be okay. I don't think too much is going to change there. At 8, it's going to be interesting to see how they fix the 8 problem long term. I think I'm talking more like for the tournament, not as opposed to like the opening game. I think we'll see how that goes. Scrum off, interesting. Yeah, 10. I don't know. I wouldn't mind seeing Marnitz Boshoff stay. I know that he didn't play last year and everything. I still think he's got quite a bit to add. I'm not quite sure where his space is and if he's still contracted there. But he was there last year. But I mean, obviously 10 we got Mani Lubbock and Mona Steyn. Centers are a bit of an issue for me. I think that's going to be quite fun. So the document I got says Nafi Tutavaki's been signed from the Saints, and then Berger Undal. Those are the only 2 sort of centers, and then they've obviously got Johnny Kotze that can be there. Cornell Hendricks, Roscoe Speckman on the wing. I think those 2 are going to rip people apart if they stay together. And then fullback, they're pretty much sorted. So interesting to see. I think the pressure is going to be on Potahima, though, because of the amount of people that he had lost and how he's going to now elevate the guys now. So I think it could be a tough year for the Bulls. I think having a look at everything, I think the Sharks are probably, on paper, absolutely the best set.
Okay, Jock, tell us why the Sharks are not the best set.
Because the Bulls are. You know what? Every year, everybody laughs and makes jokes about the Bulls. And funny enough, how many times out of that, the Bulls come and surprise quite a few people, and wouldn't say shut them up, but I must say yesterday's game. I know it's a warm-up game, and again, I'm going to say that I do read a little bit into those games because I mean, this is South Africa. We don't have local derbies where guys are soft on each other. They go for it. The Sharks Stormers game was a bit of a ball fest, but the Lions Bulls game was quite something to watch. I mean, that was exciting rugby. It was also two. What's the word? Two different halves because the Bulls made quite a lot of changes after half time, and I almost felt that the youngsters played much better than the guys that started. However, just coming back, just by the way, Sean, it doesn't look like Marnus is even in the mix. I know the three fly-offs at the moment is Mornay, Mani, and I forgot the guy's name. Jeepers, man. Anyway, he played second half. He wasn't that great off the tee, but he did get the ball going, and he wasn't that bad. He was sorry, I'm just trying to find his name quickly. Jeez, sorry, man. Jeez, I can't find his name.
Sean, the only thing I want to know is how the hell is Tuitavaki going to understand any of those plays?
Touche. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's the same as all our guys going to France. I don't think they teach much French up in the Pretoria schools. They're probably starting now, and in Bloemfontein as well. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm actually looking forward to seeing, and it's quite an interesting move on his part.
Yeah. So sorry, that third fly-off is Chris Smith.
Yes, I do. I'm well aware
I think
of it.
he was if I remember right.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, I think fly-off wise, it's going to be interesting to see how they play them. I thought Ivan van Zyl didn't look that great. He actually cost the Bulls. I think it was 1 or 2 tries. Papier came on. He looked refreshed. He looked great. Looked inspired. I don't know if that trip. It was Sale. I think he went to for a month or two. If that's giving him a bit of new life and stuff, because like I said, I mean the second half, the guys that came on second half, Papier, Lebok, all those guys, when they came on, they were on fire. It was crazy. But yeah, I'm excited about the Bulls. There's a lot of youngsters, a lot of new names to get to know. So it kind of feels weird to support the team and don't know half the team. So I'm trying to work on that. But what I saw yesterday, it's exciting. We mentioned Jean Recreer and Mornay. I think it's key guys in key positions. The same that happened last year when we had Skalk and Dwayne, because we also had a fairly young team in regards to, especially forwards wise. And I mean, at the end of the day, the Bulls did better than anybody had expected. But look, I mean, at the end of the day, we've got the Jags to deal with in our conference, and that's been something I've been picking up the last few days. Is can the South African teams actually do better than the Jags this year? And like I mentioned earlier, I'm a bit out of touch in regards to the overseas, the franchises. I'm not sure what the movements for the Jags have been after the World Cup. I kind of have my own opinion on the fact that I felt that last year was a big World Cup drive for Argentina, and I think they put too much into Super Rugby, which ultimately cost them in the World Cup. And so I don't know. The only motivation I think they have is to try and do better than this year, which is a great motivation for any team. That especially for someone like them that's come out of nowhere and they got into the final. And I mean, we all know playing a final in Christchurch is basically a dead rubber. So anywhere else you've got a chance. So I think that's their only real motivation. Whether they've lost players, I haven't really looked at that so closely. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. Can the South African teams do better than the Jags? for starters?
Yeah, Jock, I mean, that's going to be the big question. I'll actually probably park the Jaguares and handle them with all the rest of the guys, so we can have a little bit closer look at them. Let's keep on the South Africans. I know the Jaguares have lost Materia, Leguizamon, Ledalo, and Moyana, the winger. So I know those guys are out, but for the rest, I mean, they still got Creevy and they still got a heck of a big Argentinian squad there. So they should be tough, and I think that's probably going to be the big question is if they rock up in that same kind of mood as last year. I'm actually not really favouring one of the South African teams to beat them. You know, if that was just the first move for them, and as you say, it wasn't all just about the World Cup, and they actually are good as a unit. I don't see why they shouldn't go. At least the same again this year. But listen, guys, just before we go to that quick quick fire, we have got a few questions for you. I know you guys love it so much, and you're so good at answering in like just 10 seconds. But just finally, Judge, give me just yo.
Turned over a new leaf. Go.
Okay. So you're going to be sharp on just. Quickly, three or four guys. Obviously, we've seen a lot of box leave, and it's going to be a fresh box team, and we don't want to look too much at that at this stage. But just looking at the South African franchises, 3 or 4 kind of youngsters, guys you think are going to be bolters come the end of Super Rugby. You're gonna really claim their probably maybe surprise Springbok slots.
Apelele Fassi. I think. Yeah, him. I'm trying to think. I had some bolters. I'm not sure who's going to get bulk call-ups. I think Wanisile Similani is going to turn it on for us this year. I think we're going to see more of him. I'm just quickly scrolling through, having a quick squiz. I don't know. I'm gonna have to. Jared mentioned on the chat, Karen van Vuren is going to get a call-up, so I'm going to go with him on that. I'm sorry if I pulled, that was from one of you. I pulled it. What might have been one of your backups. So yeah, those 3 I think we'll get a look in.
Chalk for you.
I like Fassi. I'd like to see. I can't remember his name now. It's that one winger of the Lions. He didn't play this weekend though. I think he played on Friday against the Bulls. They had a warm up there at Loftus as well. I can't remember. He played in the Curry Cup. I think he's very exciting. Small guy, but hell of a lot of pace. And then the third one. Sorry?
Tyron Green.
No, not Tyron. It's the winger.
Steyn, isn't it Steyn Pienaar?
Yes. Steyn Pienaar. If he gets chance to play, I think he can surprise a few people, because I think he's an exciting prospect. Fassi already mentioned. I haven't looked at any players like this, so I'm gonna leave it at those 2 for now. Sorry guys.
Okay, I'm gonna give you guys Achiva Daimane. He's definitely gonna be in the Bok mix. Tyron Green, Fassi definitely, and then the locks. I think we've got a heck of a vacancy at lock. So I'm calling Murat. I think Murat is gonna be in the Bok group, and my bolter is JJ van der Mesh to be in the mix as a Bok number 4, at least in the squad. Obviously not a heck of a lot of game time, but to me, those are the guys to watch out for. And then Noamba. I wouldn't be surprised if Noamba makes one of the extended squads. He's got to be fast tracked. If he has a decent Super Rugby, he could be involved. Listen, guys, if you're happy, let's go on to your favorite part of the show and hit you guys with some good questions. There aren't a lot, so don't worry, it's quick. Maybe okay. I'm gonna start with the one and then the other one. So, Jock, you first, then we alternate for every question. Okay, so I'm not gonna call your names every time. Just answer it. So, Jock, you first, and then we alternate from there. Okay. Can the South African team win Super Rugby this year?
Probably not, but I hope so.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a very long. If that's the yes, no, I'm starting to get worried already. Okay, who will be the first SA coach to be fired, or at least on the chopping block?
Dobbo.
Twitter.
He's gonna make Puerta. Who are you most looking forward to seeing in action or back in action? South African player.
What is the question?
Any player that you're just looking forward to seeing in action or back in action from the South African Conference?
I'm glad to see Morné Steyn back, and I hope he kicks ass.
I'm going to go with Wandisile Simelane. I'm a big fan of Fassi, but I want to see Wandi have a good run.
Who's the single biggest loss who we're not going to be seeing this year?
Who's the single biggest loss?
Player that we're not going to see in Super Rugby this year in South African.
Who's the biggest loss?
Yes.
Okay.
Diemont.
Who?
He's
Diemont.
Boy Crush. Chalk?
I will say probably either Ergie or Loot.
Okay, who's going to have the better campaign? Cohen Bosch, Damian Willemse.
I hope Damien.
I didn't get the question. Who's going to have the better campaign?
Bosch or Willemse? Damian.
Willemse. Oh, sorry, no. Not Willemse, because I'm just Bosch, because they're a little bit more settled there. Sorry. Misunderstood.
Okay, no worries. Okay, out of all the signings and movements we've seen, who was the best signing for a South African franchise?
Who was the best signing? Not Chef for the Sharks.
I think I can spell a Morné Steyn for the Bulls coming on here.
Jy weet dit.
Okay, guys, last
And I'm
one.
not even a fan. That's the funny part. You guys probably think I am. I'm not even a fan.
Okay, last one, guys. Who tops the South African Conference?
Bulls. You can laugh.
Last.
No, first.
Is it last? Bulls.
Tops.
Bulls will come last.
Tops. First, who wins it?
Oh. Sharks.
Thanks, guys. That was
So sorry.
that wasn't too bad. Thanks, gents. Brent, I think we got the answers there. Maybe one or two from you. I saw you had some odds there. Betting man, what you calling out of the South African Conference? What is your single best bet in terms of the South African Conference?
I think the Stormers are going to win the South African Conference. I think the Stormers have got a good chance of winning the title. I do respect the Sharks. I think it's I think the Aguiar is going to disappoint this season. So for me, it's the Sharks and the Stormers. I do expect the Bulls to punch okay, but I'm not a big Puerta fan. I think they're gonna battle perhaps a little bit. Willemse, I think, will have a better tournament than Bosch. Jamie Roberts is going to prove to be a very shrewd signing for the Stormers. I've heard he does a lot of work around the camp as well, cleans a few floors and stuff like that. And so looking forward to it. I see Judge got so upset when I tipped the Stormers, he left the show. I see your mate Paul Scumby just came on and asked, "Who's this yellow cap guy?"
Can you ban people from the watching the show?
I can actually. I can.
Can you get rid of this Paul Scumby guy, please?
Yep, we'll have to ban him. I also know
please.
Paul very well. Judge, you back? I thought you got offended when I tipped the Stormers to win, and you just left.
No, that's such a bad line. So you picked the Stormers to win. That last question was, who's going to finish first or last?
First
in the South African Conference.
Not the Bulls. The Bulls are not going to finish first.
And if they do, then you owe me a public apology.
Done.
Well, Paul Scumby reckons yellow cap can't pick an apple off a tree, so we'll see. But just Couch, the one other one I want to mention is the player I'm looking forward to watching. I'm looking forward to watching Yankees if he gets a lot of game. I don't know what the policy is with some of the Bok players. But I'm going to back Yankees to be the Stormers' top try scorer. That guy's got such an eye for the try line. He's got such an eye for the intercept. He does lurk around offside quite a lot of time, but he's actually the guy that I'm looking forward to watching this season. I'm really looking forward to watching him. I think he's going to score a lot of tries.
Sounds good.
Excellent, guys. Thanks very much, Paul. Good to have you joining us towards the end to put the boot in there with yellow cap. And Judge, good to have you on the show. Look forward to chatting to you a lot as the season goes on. And Couch, likewise, and also yellow cap. Look forward to seeing Mornay Steyn going great guns this season.
Thanks, guys.
Excellent. Thanks to all the guys who did join us in the live chat. Our first Use It or Lose It of the year will be back every week throughout Super Rugby. So looking forward to that. If you are new to the show, please do go down and hit the subscribe button. Otherwise, we'll see you next week, this week, Thursday, for the Handicap Rugby Chat That Matters, and then next week, Monday at 9 o'clock again. Thanks, guys.